the soul that sins shall die. And what is sin? 1 John 3:4 tells us sin is breaking the law. So then what Paul is saying is when Jesus hung on a tree, using the tree as a metaphor for the cross, that would clearly be a sign that he came under God's curse, God's judgment. But now the question is why? Jesus was absolutely sinless, flawless, and completely pleasing to God. In fact, God himself bore witness at the baptism and the transfiguration. If you go to Mark 1:11 and Mark 9:7, there God the Father speaks audibly from heaven, so that John hears the voice, and the apostles hear the voice of the Father audibly on the Mount of Transfiguration saying, "This is my beloved Son. This is my Son whom I love." And in Mark 1:11 he says, "With whom I am well pleased." So the Lord Jesus always delights the heart of the Father. The Father's always pleased with the Son, always in love with him. If that's the case, then why was he killed on a cross? Why do we find him hanging on a cross, which is a sign of God cursing Jesus? He took our curse. The death we deserve for breaking the law, the curse that we deserve for breaking the law, he voluntarily took in our place so that God could now show us mercy and favor and forgive us, removing the curse, the stigma of the law. Because what does the law say? Cursed is he who fails to follow the law, right? You're cursed. So because none of us can keep the law to God's satisfaction, we come under that curse, which is death. Jesus in his love voluntarily steps in our place, takes that curse, that punishment of the law, so that we can be spared. That's all Paul is saying. Let's see what the Quran says about the martyrs, those who are killed in the way of Allah. In chapter 2, verse 154.
Call not those who are slain in the way of Allah dead, nay, they are living, only ye perceive not.
So those who are killed, they're physically killed, so they're physically dead. They are not dead, they're alive, even though you don't perceive how. So the Quran defines that not as ceasing to exist. Physical death here would mean that the body dies, but your spirit continues to consciously exist, right? Yes, the God-man died without ceasing to exist. The God-man died, and yet he was still alive and conscious by virtue of being God and by virtue of possessing a human spirit, a human soul that was attached to his divine person that continues to consciously exist apart from the body. So, folks, where's the problem? The God-man can die and still sustain creation because he never stopped existing.